Yeah. Huh? Okay, let's Chaz Rabbi. Yesterday I wasn't here and we went through some. The Gemara, we had a shell like this. The Gemara is in the middle of answering a question. We said according to Rabbi Yehuda said by the Shkolim, said something very interesting. He said if the Shkolim was sent by they were collected and they were sent to Yerushalayim before the Trumas Halishka was done. If the shluchim that you sent it with lost it, and then they swore to you the Shvuas Hashomim, then you separated more. You separated some more shkolim, and then you found the original. So the Gemara said it's Mishnah in the second paragraph in shkolim that they're both what? They're both kodesh, and you can't go ahead and keep it for the next year. So Rabbi Yehuda, you could keep it for next year. Rabbi Yehuda, you could keep the shkolim for the next year. Says in Cain, if that's the case, just like you can keep the shkolim for the next year, why does Rabbi Yehuda hold if you have an extra power or an extra seir as a result of a goyrel? Why does he hold that they have to die? In other words, he said that once it's nitcha, it dies. Right? That's his halacha is chatas at tzibur. The halacha l'mash b'sinai of chatas shekibur b'aleh applies and it dies. That's what the Gemara had that kasha. Why does it have to die? So the Gemara offered a few terutzim. The Gemara first wanted to say. The Gemara wanted next. Now it's to stay for next year. So the Gemara wanted to say, well, first there's it has to be bought from new money. You can bring it for next year. So the Gemara said that's very good by the Seir. What about the par? The par is not bought from communal funds. The par is bought from the funds of the Kohen Gadol. Says the Gemara, so it goes in one or to the other. Says the Gemara, if it's a gazera, let it die. If it's a gazera, let it pasture and get a mum. Like why? That was the first attempt. Then we had another attempt. The second attempt, we wanted to say that the goyrol is kaiveya. The goyrol is kaveh, can't be used for a second year. Right? Fred the Gemara to make a new goyrol. Now I didn't shtelzich on this, partially because I didn't know it at the time. But what bothered me yesterday, I was saying shir, the question hit me. What's going on over here? You have an extra animal, right? You get, according to Rabbi Yehuda, leave it for next year. So he goes, well, you can't. Why? Because one goyrol can't be kaiveya for the next year's goyrol. So you have a goyrol in year one, can't be used for a goyrol in year two. So the Gemara says, so make a goyrol in year two. So let's go through. What are you making a goyrol in year two? Let's say you had an extra seir that was mishaleach, correct? What are you going to do? You're making a second goyrol. What happens if it comes out on it this time? Bilashem. Right. You can make a switcheroo. You have a second goyrol. You have a switcheroo. You understand? The Gemara said, so make a goyrol. The goyrol for year one can't go ahead and be for the year two. So it says, okay, I got an eitzah, right? I got a workaround. Go ahead and make a goyrol in year two. So it was bothering me at the time. I said, what do you mean? How can you go in year two? If it's kaiveya as a same shtalech in year one, now you're going to go ahead, take another goat, put it next to it. What happens if it now switches over here? Says the Taisus Yeshanim, a tremendous chiddush. Says the Taisus Yeshanim, vis-a-vis year two, year one's goyrol is nothing. It's done. If you make a new goyrol and you switch, it's okay. It's okay. It's a tremendous chiddush. You switch, it's okay. Okay, so the Gemara said, very good. That's by the seir where you have a goyrol. What about the par? You don't have a goyrol. Why? So you have use the par. Says the Gemara, so it goes a seir at the par. Then the Gemara came up with what about chatas shemesa ba'aleha? Maybe the Kohen Gadol is going to die, right? Very good. The Kohen Gadol is going to die. That deals with the par. What about the seir? The seir left over. So the Gemara said, maybe a year is going to pass. Maybe a year is going to pass, and we know that one of the chatas mesais is it's over shnasa. A chatas can't be more than a year old. If it's more than a year old, it dies. So, Fred the Gemara, what do you mean? Maybe it's going to be more than a year old. It's zicha going to be more than a year old. You're going from one Yom Kippur to the next Yom Kippur. It's zicha going to be more than a year old. And for the Gemara, le'inyan counting the years of the life of the goats, we're going to count from the solar year. We're going to count from the solar year. So. There's 11 more days in the solar year than lunar year, 365 minus 354. You have to go ahead, however, add 8 days because they can't be bought a carbon for 8 days. So you go to a 3-day window of where it's possible to be less than a year old to bring it.
And where every year?
What?
Where every year?
And we said yesterday, Nibiyah is going to go to the Meicher, right? Nibiyah will go to, you'll go to the, so we where do we see this? This is Rabbi Shita. Where do we see this? L'inyan Batei Arichayma. Yesterday, I mixed up. That's the main reason I'm going over this for posterity. Not that you would know, but I do. I made a mistake yesterday. I said that you can't redeem it until a year is up. I was thinking about a field that you sell. The Bati Erechaim, you have to redeem within a year. If you don't redeem it, you lose it. A house in a walled city, if you don't redeem it within a year, you lose it. So Rabbi is the one who said, how do we count this year? From a solar year. So very good. So right now we're holding, we have a problem. we have a problem. How come, like Rabbi Yehuda, why can't I use it? And right now I have a techetim so that you could use it. It would be, right? It's more than a year old. Okay, so anyway. What are you going to say about the par? Okay, now I'm holding here. It could be more than a year old. So you use what? Samachvav and Aleph. Right. Par the par guys is 3 years old. Par so what are you worried about? The par being over the year? The par is a 3-year-old. You don't have to worry about the year passing. It can be within, right? Says the Gemara. So with guys are the para to the sire, just say the sire, just like the sire, with guys maybe it might be more than a year old, so to the par. Fred the Gemara, the same question, almost just because of a gezerah, are you going to let it die? You just could put it in the pasture. Mendy went samach vav amid aleph with 4 lines down. Samach vav amid aleph. In addition, a chatas that is more than a year old, it doesn't die. It goes to Re'iyah. It goes to what? It goes to pasture. A chatas that a year passes by. I say we view it. We view it as it's you can't get to it. Ella Amarava. Ella, so back we're holding by a question. Why do you do it? Like Rabbi Yehuda, more than a year old. Why can't you go ahead and save it for the? Once it's why Yamusu when you could go ahead if he holds the money, he can go to the next year. Also, the carbon should be able to go to the next year. Again, it's a kasha of an amid and in good standing, and we keep on going. Says the Gemara, Ella Amarava, Gezeri Mishum Takala. You're worried about Takala. Now, Takala means if I keep it around, I may come to use it. Guys, Takala means if I keep it around, I may come to use it. You got a problem. Here's a carbon over here. You got a problem with a live carbon. Like, what are you going to do with it? So we're worried to keep it around. You may come to the Tanya. We learned the following. We don't make something kodesh. We don't say lashon of erchin, right? You don't say erchin on something. Even kodesh bedek you don't say if some person's erki alai, you're going to have to bring what you're going to have to bring the amount of based upon the person what the years were life. They machrimim stam chayrim is the bedek abayis. You don't say something chayrim is manazeh. Because what if you do? What are you going to do with it, guys? Like, no. What are you going to do with it? V'im higdish v'herich v'hechrim, and if you magdish it, you mark it, and you mark it. Behema to akar, behema yoikar. We're going to see that means you starve it to death. Peiros skus v'kelim your kavu. You let them go ahead rot and rot. And mois v'klimatecha is money and a keli of metal. Yoilach hanoli yamamelach. Take the word I know. Yoilach yamamelach. You throw in the yamamelach to go ahead and get ruined over there. Now the ezehu ikar. What's considered ikar? Noil delis if neha v'meismei aleha. You go ahead and you close it up. And you let it die. So the same thing. So what do you see? Why are you going ahead and well, guys, what are you doing with this animal? We're killing it, right? We're killing it. Why are we killing it? Because we don't want it around. So too, Yom Kippur, we don't want it around. That's the takala. What's the raya that it's takala? In other words, we don't want an animal of kachim around. It's manazeh. If it's an animal of kachim, what do? You starve it to death. Good? Says now, why are you doing that? Because you don't want an animal kodesh around. So who hadin an animal? You want to know what's your kasha? Let Rabbi Yehuda use it for the next year. We don't want the animals of Yom Kippur around. We don't want kachim animals around. It's takal. It's a problem having them around. So we don't want them around. That's what the Gemara answers. Now that would answer the question. Says the Gemara. He makes me laugh. Takola demai. What takola are we worried about? Takola dakrava. If a takola that maybe you'll be makravit, as you worry, here's a carbon, you'll bring it, right? I feel called royas nami. So all situations where we say roya, all situations where we go ahead and we designate an animal for what? For pasteurization. I use that word facetiously. Again, why do we want to do? We're going to keep it around, pasture it till it gets a mum. If you worry about akrava, why aren't we worried about akrava over there? Why aren't we worried about akrava over there? Takala de giza va'avoida, and if you're worried about the takala, you may come to go ahead and work it, or you may come to go ahead and use its wool or its sharings. I feel koroyas nami. Like, in other words, if you what takala could there possibly be? We know there's a concept of re'iyah, a pasture, making an animal go to pasture to wait till it gets a mum, and we're not worried there. So why are we worried over here? What's the takala? Al sakrava, we're not worried. Obviously, we have a re'iyah, and else using the gaze, the sharings, and using it to work it, we're also not worried. Says Gemara lo'olam takala dakrava. It's the first problem. You're worried about being makravit. You have a kasha. What about re'iyah? The hanach the lav b'nei akravininu leitari behu. You're not busy with this, guys. Once it's designated for re'iyah, it's not a carbon in your mind. You're not busy with it. You're not worrying about shechting it. It's not a carbon. Hanach. But the ones for Yom Kippur, that that hach, the Yom Kippur, that you're going to be using it for next year, that it's designated to be shachten and brought in the Beis Hamikdash, the bas hakravahi, which is a bas hakrava, tarid ba, right? You are worried about it. So that would answer the question. Okay, let's go over what's the kasha. What's the kasha? Like Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, if you have extra shkalim that you were lost, you separated other shkalim. You found the originals. They're both kodesh. Says Rabbi Yehuda, no, the kodesh, but you can go ahead and use the ones for next year. So who I did Yom Kippur use for next year? Why does it die? And for the Gemara, it's takala. We'll worry about takala. We don't want it around. We don't want it around. You want it around? Re'iyah is not a carbon. This is a carbon. Re'iyah is not a carbon. This is a carbon. Says the Gemara. And gufa v'takala atzma tanaihi. And the concept of takala, worrying about being mak of an animal, keeping it around, is machlokes tanayim. The Tanya. We learn in one brisa. Pesach shaloi karev b'rishayin. A carbon Pesach that you didn't bring in Pesach Rishon. Yaakov b'sheni. Right? You can go ahead and I guess give it to somebody, and someone who needs it, who someone was tamei b'derech chayka. Go ahead and you can use it, right? Yeah. Okay. B'sheni. And the second one, Yaakov l'shon abba, for the next year. Obviously, he has to hold like Rabbi, because it has to be a male less than a year old, right? Okay. V'tanya idach lo Yaakov. You shouldn't be makriv at all. My lav v'takala pligi. L'chayra the machloikis is v'takala. L'chayra machloikis, the one that says you can keep it around is not worried about takala using it, and the one that you can't keep it around is worried about takala. Says no. The kuliyam loy chashin l'takala v'hacha v'plukta the Rabbi Rabbana k'miflaki, right? V'leikasha ha'Rabbi ha'Rabbanan. The one that says Yaakov you can go ahead and use. So it's like Rabbi that we're going to go ahead and ascertain the years of the life of the Pesach based upon its solar calendar. So it'll be what? Less than a year old. Masha'en Kain, according to the Chachamim, who goes after the lunar calendar, right? Don't keep it around because you can't bring it. Because why? Because it's going to be Pesach Sha'ov V'Shanas. It's going to be more than a year old. But not takala. It be totally wide in years. It's a shame. Yeah. What? Why can't they use it for regular shoma? Once it comes to the space. We're saying use it as a Pesach. We're saying to use it as a Pesach. Again, you could be oiked the shame and use it as a shlomin. We're not discussing that. We're discussing using it as a Pesach. Right. You're right. You're using it as a Pesach.
Shani is less than a year old.
Again, we said that. We said this is afterwards. We said after Pesach Sheni.
I'm saying if it was right, if it was
again, if Yankel, if you look at the words inside, what does it say? You could do Pesach Sheni, and once you pass Pesach Sheni, then you use it for the next year.
Right.
So good. It's past Pesach Sheni.
So I'm saying according to everyone, it's going to be less than a year old. It can't be less
than
a year old.
1,000%. Pesach Sheni is not a machloikus. Machloikus is after that time, right? Okay.
Why are we not working about the color with this color?
What?
Why are we not worried about this color? We got lost. We can use it next year. Why are we worried? Maybe use it this year.
What, takala?
Yeah.
The shkalim?
Yeah.
What are you going to use it for? Put it away.
We run out of money this year, so they are taking the money for next year because
I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure that you have it around all the time. It's not in front of you all the time. You don't have to be busy with it. An animal you have to be busy with. You have to be busy with the animal. I hear you, Kasha. Anyway, so the Gemara says the Kuliyama is not worried about the color, worried about bottom. Fred the Gemara of Tanya v'chein hamois. What about Mendy's problem? Let's say you forget your shkolim. Let's say you separated money for the Korban Pesach, guys. Good. Says one Tana what? You can't use it. Now, if it's takala, why can't you use it? I mean, if it's worried about a year old, why can't you use it? There's nothing to do with a year old. Hell, it must be you are worried about takala. So you see, you are worried about takala by money. That's not by shkolim. It's mashma. It's mashma over here. Okay. I'll give you an answer. There's a pushka you could put it in the Beis Hamikdash. Maybe then put in the pushka. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Anyway, guys, look up. We want to say Takal is Machlekes Tanoim. We want to say no, it's not Machlekes Tanoim. We wanted to say the one that says Pesach Yaakov holds that what it's like Rabbi that solely a lunar. The one that says Lo Yaakov holds like the Chachamim 354 says the Gemara. How can you say that's Machlekes? The same thing. If you separated money for Pesach, you can go ahead take that money and you can use it according to the first one. According to the second one, you can't use it. Why can't you use it if it has to do with a year old? Money has nothing to do with a year old. It's takala, you're worried about what? Using the money. Okay, so here you would worry about Mendy's problem. Okay, says the Mishnah. Okay, let's go over. What have we done so far? We want to go through the avodah, guys? Should we give you a test? No, I'm not going to give you a test. Well, let's go through the avodah anyway, right? First avodah, what did they do? Right? First part, we had a par, and they said vidu on the par, and then they went and they did a goyrol. And then they did a second vidui, and then they shechted the par, and then they gave the blood to the kohen on the second roivid, and he would go ahead and be stirring it. He'd go up, take a 3 kav machta of gold of the mizbeach, come down, put it down on the floor there, and the fourth thing there. Then he'd go up into the Beis Chafinas. He would take the ketairis. He'd come down with the ketairis, and he'd go in with the ketairis in his left hand and the shovel in his right hand. He'd walk in and he'd offer the ketairis in front, right? And he'd come out, and then he would go ahead, take the blood from the par, go back inside, and sprinkle 8 times. Once up and 7 down in front of the bottom. He'd come out, put it down in the stand. He'd go to the seir. He would go ahead and shech the seir, go back inside with the seir, do 8 times again in front of the aron, come out, put it down, take the par, go in front of the aron in the proiches, do it the same thing, put that down, do the seir, the same thing. Put that down. Machlokes now, whether you mix it together, you don't mix it together. Daub it on the karnas of the mizbeach hazav. Now everyone holds you do mix it together. You put 7 times on the top of the tiharoi of the mizbeach. You would then spill the blood onto the western side of the mizbeach hachitzain, right? On the mizbeach western side of the mizbeach hachitzain. Now he's just finished that, right? And what else is after that? Nothing. I'm missing something. Oh, he finished that, and now he's coming. But he didn't go back inside yet. He didn't go. He's going to do that afterwards. Okay. Now he's coming to the seir, and he's going to go ahead and say vidui on the seir. He's going to say vidui on the seir, and he's going to send it out la'azazel. Okay, but all intents and purposes, he's finished the etzem avoda in the Beis Hamikdash Papa in the Big Day Lavan. So now, now he comes to what the seir. Says Rashi, it's been a while since we did this, right? We're going back to teach the Seder Avodah. Right? That we just finished what in the last parak that's called Haitziloi. He's now coming to the same Mishtaleach. The place he left it when he's in by the Gairul, Keneged base Shiluchai, the place is being sent out. We said that's Shar Niknar in the eastern door of the Beis Mikdash. Kedamina Perik Tarf Bekilpi. So it's been a long time. This guy has been standing there a long time since he finished the Avodah, and now we're coming to tell what does he do there. So Barley Etzel Sarah Mishlech back in the Mishnah, he goes ahead, he puts his 2 hands on top of it, and he says, Hashem, Kappa no Okay, the girsa, we again the machlokes, what the girsa is over here. Chatasi vishi b'shati or visi b'shati chatasi l'fanecha amcha beis Yisrael ana Hashem kapena chatoyim la'avodas la'pashoyim. Just to reiterate, chatoyim are shogeg, avonos are mizidim, and pashoyim are lahachas. They're lahachas. Shachatu sha'avu she'pashul l'fanecha amcha beis Yisrael k'kosav b'taras Moshe avdecha lemar ki v'yom hazeh yichap alechem l'taraschem v'mikol chaseim l'fnei Hashem titharu. Good. והכהנים והעם העומדים בעזרה כשהיו יושבים בשם המפורש שהיו יוצאים מפי כהן גדול היו קוראים משתחווים ונופלים על פניהם ואומרים ברוך שם כבוד מחסו לעולם ועד. Now we had this earlier. I don't think it mentioned earlier that Korim Mishtachvim. They said Baruch Shem Kavod Machzor Li'olam B'ed. Right. It doesn't say Korim Mishtachvim. I don't know if they did it over there. I think they did, but I'm not sure. It doesn't say it. Yeah, they said the name 10 times. They said it 10 times. That three by the 6 by the Viduyim, 6 by the Viduyim by the par, 1 by the when he said Lashem, and the other 3 over here.
So we don't do it on Kippur, we only do it 3 or 4 times.
Get out late enough.
Okay, Masul Mishahaya Malichim, they gave it to the one who's going to take it to the Midbar. Akol Kshem Malichat, everyone's kosher to take it. El Shasu Kahanim, take out the word Gedolim. Shasu Kahanim Keva, that they made the Kahanim. Lahaya Manichem Es Yisrael Alichem, they didn't let Yisrael do it. Am Rabbi Yossi, Ma'asav Alichu, Arsala, this person named Arsala, Mitzipurin, Yisrael Haya, he was a Yisrael. It doesn't seem these people had a long lifespan, the people who take it out. I think they didn't make it through the year. There's a Kliyakar and there's a Marsha here. I don't think they made it through the year. The kevesh asul loy mifnei habavloyim, and they made a kevesh. They made a ramp because of the Babylonians. They'll go ahead and pull his hair. They say they pull his hair and say go. Now I thought the hair was the hair of the who's here? Is the person's hair or the goat's hair? What does the article say? I don't know. I learned it was the goat's hair, but it's mashma. I think it's the could be his hair. What? Huh? To hear it go, right? Right. Yeah. The two pshatim. V'yeshe pirshus shetashos aris isha mishaleach. V'yeshe pirshus aris asay. Either way, anyway, the Babylonians they weren't doing the right thing. You shouldn't be pulling out here on Yontif, right? Shouldn't be pulling out. It's gozes. It's not a good thing to do, right? Again, Davashem Miskavim, Mistam, it's not the Raisa. It's the Raisa, but Mistam, it's not such a Sicha Asa to do, right? Sicha Asa to do.
They're trying to make him go.
Well, yeah, they wanted to get out of it because, guys, you would get complete kapara with the seir. The seir is mechapa for all your averis, everything. You would be squeaky clean, right? Yeah, you get a pardon from the president, but the real president, the king of kings. No, not Trump. Anyway, so okay, guys. Taking you back in time, a little chazara. One good thing about this Masechta, when you chazav it, you'll see it's all very connected. It's very easy to chazav because it's all very connected. So we had a machlokes. What was this? For whom was the Seir Mishlech Mechaper? From who? So we had machlokes of Yehuda and Reb Nechemia. Reb Yehuda said it's Mechaper for Bnei Yisrael and the Kahanim for all of the Averis. The Kahanim got their kapara on the par for Tumas Mikdash Kadashov. But all of the Averis, they got the kapara with the Seir Mishlech. Masha'en Kain, Reb Nechemia says that it's solely for Kal Yisrael, and the Kahanim, they get the kapara through the par and the vidur and the par. Okay? So it says the Gemara, Ilu b'nei Aaron am Kadosh Echoloi Kamar. By the Seir Mishlech, we don't mention anything about Aaron, we only mention HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That makes the Kal Yisrael, Am Yisrael, guys in the vidur. What did he say? Right? They're said b'nei Yisrael, right? Shepashlu Fanecha Amcha Beis Yisrael, Kikasa B'Taras Moshe. So the ilu b'nei Aaron am kadeshech like kamar. Mantana Rav Yomi like Rabbi Yehuda. This Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Dik Rabbi Yehuda ha'amar yesh lam kapara b'seim shtalech. The Kahanim have a piece of the action. They're also part of the vidui. So we only mention Amcha Beis Yisrael, and we're not mentioning the Kahanim. It's mashma like the Shittas Rabbi Yehuda. Abaye, I don't know, why do they say like from Nehemiah? It's very interesting. Why don't they say? Why don't they say?
The
Right?
negative, right? They don't
Yeah.
say-
Yeah. Why don't they say like you know?
It's a Jewish thing.
Okay. Anyway, says the Mantana Rabbi Yehuda like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Amar yesh lahem kapara b'shana. Abaye mafil tem Rabbi Yehuda. But the Kahanim lav b'cha Amcha Yisrael. No. There's Amcha Yisrael is included. What the Kahanim as well. Amcha Yisrael is included as well. I'm not used to seeing you live. We get an easy, or we're not in an easy chair. Okay, so Masru Lemi Shemalicha. They took it to the one who took it out to the midbar. Okay, now the pasuk says the Sholach biad ish iti hamidbara. Al taich iti is designated right now, but the Gemara is going to change. Okay, so they gave it Tanarabana. It says ish lahachsheres hazar. You don't need a kayin to do it. A zar can do it. Iti. She right? Sheyeh mizumin, right? Et from yesterday. It should be mizumin, right? Mizumin stop. It should be mizumin. It should from yesterday. Now, et va'afilu b'Shabbos. So it's lashon of ace, guys. Et like this is not designated. It's lashon of ace, like moya, like time. The whole ace, right? The whole zman the ace, right? Like time. So now, va'afilu b'Shabbos, meaning that this guy takes the goat out on Shabbos. The Gemara is going to ask, what Isra are you doing Mechal Shabbos for? Like, what are you doing? In other words, when it says a limud for Shabbos, mashmid is Chilul Shabbos here. Where's the Chilul Shabbos? You walk in a goat. What are you doing? Right? You walk in a goat. Right? Where's the Isra Shabbos? What? He's throwing it off a cliff. What? What? Again, the act of transportation. The act of transportation. Where's your Chilul Shabbos in transporting it?
They put up a
What?
they put up a
So now, vafilu betuma, et vafilu betuma. Even if there's tuma, what? Even if he's tame. So the one's going to ask, who's tame? What's going on over here? So we need a little explanation on the variety we just said, right? The zar, Shabbos, tuma. The Gemara will elaborate. Good. Now, ish lahachshir says abshita. Doesn't say kayin. What? Guys, this is not an avoider of kahuna. It's not avoiding the Beis Hamikdash. Why would you think you need a kayin? So Mao the Tame, I would have thought. Kapara kasivbe. I would say what? It says in the parsha. It says kapara memela, since it says kapara. I would say it has to be a kayin, kamash malan, that it could be a zar. Et va'afilu b'Shabbos. Et afilu b'Shabbos. L'may hilchasa, says Rashi. My chil Shabbos yesh, so chutzrich la'atiroi. What chil Shabbos is there? Is there possibly that you need to matter? Imishum tchumim, if it's because you're going outside 2,000 amis, the rabbanon ba'almaninu. It's only the rabbanon. Shegozru aleim la'achem matan Torah, that they would gozer if the matan Torah. So l'chayra, what's wrong by walking the goat? So in other words, it's the act of taking the goat, Mendy, that's chilul Shabbos. If the goat was sick, you can go ahead and carry it. Now carrying a Dalet Amis and Rishus Harabim, right? Even though it's a caramelist, it's a caramelist. Kiman deloy Reb Nassim, not like Reb Nassim. Dear Reb Nassim, you wouldn't need a limud for. So you wouldn't need a limud because you're doing nothing wrong.
Maybe
Yes.
stick with that. Maybe stick with
Okay, we
that.
discussed in Techuma, and Yehuda's going to ask like Rabbi Akiva, that's the Raisa. What do you say?
No. If the animal can't stand by itself, it's not a mum.
Why do I have to look at a black screen? Why do I have to look at a black screen with a yellow hand? Yeah, what can
I'm practicing for Juneteenth.
Huh?
I'm practicing the black screen for Juneteenth.
Okay, anyway.
There you go. So,
If the animal can't stand by itself, why isn't that a mum?
Okay, so he's asking a very good kasha. L'chayr, why is it not a problem of being a Baal Mum? Why is the seir can't be a mum, right? No, I'm even still, it has to be right to be a carbon, right? It has to be right to be a carbon. Says the Avnei Neza, The Avinezi has the kasha. He says, "Hachayla pasel b'ser mishtaleach k'may balmum mechusas man." So l'chayra, and his answers that the psul is only before matan domim. If you remember, we said yesterday, fellas, why do you let the mishal? Why do you have to replace the mishaleach? The whole mitzvah mishaleach was the goyrel. Once the goyrel was done, you don't need it anymore. So he answered, it has to yomud chai. It has to stand until the chappah, till you do the matnas tam. Once you did the matnas tam, then it's not a problem. Then psul won't be a problem. So the chayre wasn't sick at the time; it got sick afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Very good. I thought you were going to get to Tchum the Raisa. I thought for sure that's coming in.
There's still time.
Okay.
You don't send out the grades.
Send who out to grace? Him?
No,
Are you in the middle of talking? You take his phone out in the middle of talking?
no,
I'm boring you?
I should have put it away.
Yeah. I see you.
I shut it off.
Yeah, very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay.
Not very easy.
Okay. Anyway, says the Gemara. I feel the same Reb Nassim. Chol is shiny. Chol is different because if it's chayla, it doesn't. It's like a dead weight, and therefore you need now. Amar Afram Zoysei Meres Erev V'Hitzah l'Shabbos. There's a din of Erev V'Hitzah. Rashi says not Erev. Do not go over Erev. There's a din of Hitzah v'Shabbos vein Erev V'Hitzah Yom Kippurim. Guys, listen. Beautiful deal. Are you allowed to carry Yom Kippur? No, right? Why? It's like Shabbos, yeah? So let me ask you a question. What's the din of you bringing the pasuk of ET for now? For Shabbos, yeah? Meaning you can't carry on Shabbos. Why would you have to bring it on Shabbos? Why don't you just bring it on a regular Yom Kippur during the week if you can't carry? In other words, if you can't carry on Shabbos, can't carry on Shira, why is the limud just for Shabbos? Why don't you say ET, it's Yom Kippur, and you're able to carry it on Yom Kippur? Well, it must be that what? You don't need a din for that. That's pasha you can carry on Yom Kippur. You only need it for Shabbos. So I say meris from this psak halacha, guys. From this psak halacha, you hear, guys, love this. From this psak halacha, you hear it must hold that they hold you could carry on Yom Kippur. Why? Because it brought a whole limud in. You could carry this animal even on Shabbos. You can't carry Yom Kippur. Why don't you just say you can carry it? Period. Ella must be Yom Kippur. You don't need a limit for. You know why? Because you're able to carry Yom Kippur. You only need a head to the pasuk Mata Shabbos, not Yom Kippur. So I say meris from the limit only for Shabbos that Yom Kippur wasn't a problem because Yom Kippur was pasha you can carry. Because Zayse meris we see from here that there's no din of erev v'yitzah and okay we don't pass like this, but Zayse meris from this. Eti va'afilu b'tumah l'may hilchasa what halacha what tumah what are you talking about? So Amar Rav Sheshes loymar shem nitmu mishalchay. If the mishalchay became tamei, the one who's going to bring him became tamei, nichnis tamei lazaro mishalchay. You hear this? He's able to go in. Now, why doesn't the kohen bring it out to him? Why are we letting him go into the azara? Yeah, no, he has to bring it out. Good. So he come into the azara tamei. Why don't you just bring him out? So he says over here. Rashi says kohen gadol moisro leisham. Ubir in the Sefer Siach Yitzchak says, it says, "V'somach Aaron shtei yadav alav." Aaron puts his hands on the animal. V'hizvada does vidui. V'sholach biyad ishiti. So when it says vidui v'sholach, it's mashma from where he said vidui. That's where it has to be what? That's where he has to be sent from. From here we did vidui. That's exactly where he had to be sent from. Okay, and that's why so he's allowed in. Okay, so the Chedushim of Iti, one, Shabbos carrying the animal, right? Shabbos carrying the animal. Two, Tumah, that he's able to be nichnis into the Azara to get what? To get the goat to bring it out. To get the goat to bring it out. Now the rest of the Gemara is very modern Gemara. Shaluas Rebbe Eliezer. Chala mahu sheyakivu al ksefai. If the animal's sick, what's the din of letting it ride on his shoulders? Amalahem. The sayer is able to carry me and you, meaning it's healthy. What happens if the person who's going to bring it out is sick? What's the halacha of him bringing it out to somebody else? We should be b'shalom, me and you. So Rashi brings that he never said anything. Rebbe Elazar never said anything. in the name of his Rebbe. And in other words, only he quoted his Rebbe. So, but he didn't say anything in his own name. So the Chayre, it's very schwer because we have Rebbe Lezer throughout Shas,
Right.
and that's after his Rebbe died. After he died, he did say, and he did argue. But over here, his Rebbe is still alive, and therefore, so he's what he's doing. He's avoiding the question by saying things that apparently don't make a lot of sense. But look at Rashi. Ahab b'shalom anivatem kloimar malachem lishol azay. So what are you asking about this at all? Le'aniv le'atem iskak lishluchai. Whether he's sick, you're not carrying it out. I'm not carrying it out. Right? Somebody asking, right? And so he's avoiding the questions. Dachvoy v'loy mace. You throw it off the cliff and it doesn't die. Mahu she'erid achrav yimisenu. What's the din of what of you have to go down and kill it? Amlahem kenya vodu kolevecha Hashem. Right, that's what he says. Okay, so he says this pasuk. Anyway, if he gets sick, you could carry it. You can go ahead and send it with somebody else. They answer the question. You have to go down and kill it. You have to go down and kill it. Now, the Gemara continues now online with certain questions where Rabbi Eliezer gives ambiguous answers to. Shalus Rabbi Eliezer. They asked Rabbi Eliezer, Pliny mahu loilam haba. So Amalei loisha al tuni ela al Pliny. That's what he said. Rashi says, what does Rashi say? Pliny mahu loilam haba al adam echad shaluhu ma akshav beinecha. What is he in your eyes now? V'yesh poishrin al Shlomo ben David shaluhu. They asked about Shlomo. El al Pliny. Don't ask about Shlomo. Shem alav shalom shal tuni. Maybe ask about Shalom. Look at Taisis. Pliny mahu loilam haba. Pirish rach. Avshalom sheba al pilegesh aviv. Avshalom who lived with the plaksham of his father David. Mahu loilam haba. Does it get olam haba? Misa virulon hadam rav noshim b'ksuba b'kedushin pilakshim b'loy ksuba b'loy kedushin. So they didn't have a lach of an ish. They never were married. Hachi amina b'sanhedrin perikayin gadol. Oiloi, we're not. V'yesh mefarshim, like Rashi said, sheshalu al shleimai. He asked him about shleimai or Shlomo. Misa virulon Rabbi Yonasan the Amar kol oim shleimai chatein l'toy. We had a Gemara in Shabbos Nenvav. Anyone shleima did the schayta with 1,000 eyes with the zara in l'toya shnema b'lehoyel b'avay shalim. Kill vav David aviv. Who d'loy haya? He wasn't like David, but nichtanami lehoya chayta. Hachi amim perik b'amim v'hem. Yaitzu with this. In other words, you were asking about Avshalom. He's by Plakshim. You were asking about Shlomo. Is the halacha like the Gemara in Shabbos, like not like the Gemara in Shabbos? That's what he was asking. Back in the Gemara. Maula hatzal roya kifsam in ari. What's the din of saving the roya of the sheep from the lion? A very, very long bach over here. Very, very long bach over here. Let's do the twice. It's much shorter. Maula hatzal kifsam in ari. Klaimar. Bas sheva miyad David. Mi svirulon the Rabbi Yonasan Masechta Ksubis. Kol hayotzel melchemes based David get krisis kaisav leishtoi. Anyone who went out to Melchama would write a get to his wife. For Uriah kosav get leBasheva, and Uriah wrote a get to Batsheva. Maula hatzla roya miyan ari. In other words, can you save the roya from the ari? Can you save Uriah from the lion David? Klaimar. Maula hatzla Uriah miyad David. Mi svirulon cholkin cover the Talmud b'makam Rav. Like, do you give cover to the Talmud in the place of the Rav? Right? V'lechayiv mori b'malchus. B'dilman ein cholkin umori b'malchusu. Ad kan l'shoinoi pirish. What does that mean? Now, background. David calls Uriah back from the battle, and he tells him that go live with Batsheva. Go home and be with Batsheva. And he says, how can I go home when Adoni Yoav is in the field? He put Yoav before David HaMelech. So the question is, do you give kavod b'makam Rav or not? Was he married b'malchus because you're able to give kavod to your Rebbe b'makam Rav or not? So could you give kavod to Yoav in front of David or not? If you hold, you can't, then he's married b'malchus, he's mechuyev misa. If you hold, you can, then he's not married. So therefore, that was asking him, do we save the roya? Do we save the Uriah if they are even if they David? That's what he was asking him. Now back in the Gemara. Amalehem loishal tunu al roya. Mamza mahu liyarish. Can a mamza inherit? Mahu liyabim. Can he is then yibum? Mahu lasar es beisai. Right. What's the din about lasud es beisai? In other words, you put the the lime, because of churban, right? Ma'ulasa is basically Ma'ulasa is cover. What's by a mamza? Do we put the slate on his house, sit on the house, or sit in his kever? And not because what he wanted to be contrite. He never said anything that he never heard from his Rebbe. Now again, the question is, I'll show you the question is the Chayra. Rabbi Les is one of the primary Tanaim in Shas. He's the first Tan in Shas, guys. Maybe say Kanish Mararis, but Shosh Akadim is not Echad Chumasan. Rabbi Les is the first one mentioned. Ashmur Rishayna. He's the first one mentioned. He's mentioned all the time. So he did say when his Rebbe was nifta, but till his Rebbe was nifta, he didn't say. Shala, they asked him. Shala Isha Chacham es Rebbe Eliezer. Mi'achar shemaisa egel shavim. Since the Maisa egel, they all over by the Zara. They might ain misashin shavim. Why is their own misa different? Amalei ein chachmal Isha ela bepelach. There's only chachmal Isha in the spindle. She's stay at home and work. All the chachma of Isha is the spinning of her hands. Itmar, Rav Levi, Chadamar. Now I'm going to answer the question. Zivach v'kiter. If they went ahead and they bought karbonis or they burnt incense to the ego, besayif, they died through a sword. Gafaf v'nishak. If they hugged and kissed it, b'misa, then they had a plague. Samach bil vavoy, then behadroikin. Behadroikin was some type of disease. Chadam Edom Asra B'Sayif had Edom Asra Sayif, Edom Lo Yasra B'Misa, and Lo Beidom Lo Yasra B'Adroikin. Amar Yehuda Shifta Shalevi Lo Avad Avodas Kechavim. They didn't serve the Egel. Shnema V'Yam Moshe B'Shara Hamach Nebama Mila Shem Eloi. Right? Fred the Gemara Yasser Ravina Kamal Shmaitza Esvei Ben Rapapa Bar Abel Ravina. The Yasser to Ravian. What are you Ravina? Yeah. So in the Birchas Yaakov, Birchas Moshe Rabbeinu, it says Oimel La'aviv Li'imoi La'Yisiv Aviv V'imoi. So in other words, he didn't hold back. When you saw your mother and father did that by the Egel, you took care of them also. You just told me that what they didn't, right? So Avi Imoy Mi Yisrael, it's his his maternal grandfather. Achiv means Achiv Me Imoy Mi Yisrael, his maternal brother, but they didn't have the same father. One of his Bnei Beisa Mi Yisrael is his grandchildren from Yisrael, but not from Shevet Levi. So the keves asaloi, they made a keves in the Babylonian. Amar Rabba Rav Chana loy Babylonian hayu Alexandrian hayu. They weren't Babylonians; they were Alexandrian. We toisha soinim es haBabylonian. Since they hated the Babylonians, hayu karna sayal shmam. They called the Babylonians. Tanya
Cowboys.
Rabbi Yehuda Aimer loy Babylonian hayu Alexandrian hayu. Amar Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says tanuach daitcha yishav yishav dash nachti estaiti because you restored my das. What does Rashi say over here? Tanach daitcha mishpachtei hoisim mibavel. Rabbi Yossi's mishpachah was in Bavel. V'haya kashal le'adava, and it was difficult. So the fact that he went ahead and said they're not Babylonians, then it made him feel better. Tul would say, he said, take it and go. Tana masha hoyt sipiri dain b'choivi dora sagiyin. Rashi says, "Mam misakif says, why are you dilly-dallying around? Kan v'vaynas adam merubim v'hein love, and then get out the v'vaynas ovia, get out quickly."
Good, thank you.
Right?